Hey, y'all, I'm glad you're here today, and I'm so excited about this episode because you know I really enjoy being practical, and I'm looking forward to getting practical with my guest today, who's going to talk to us about her story of getting out of debt and how she has not only gotten out, stayed out, but is now encouraging other people to be good with their money. So, Jade, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me. Appreciate it.
So we want to start at the beginning. Anybody who wants to know more about you can certainly find you in all the Dave Ramsey ecosystem. But you're here with me today, and there's some people who may not know who you are and what your story is. But the big title headline is $460,000 of debt. That's a lot. How much of that is the mortgage? I'm assuming the mortgage is in there.
No, was a townhouse that my husband had purchased with his mom back during just before the Great Recession. And so that was $100,000 of the debt. But everything else was consumer debt.
Consumer, not medical.
No, well, consumer debt. Yeah. So we consider consumer debt basically everything but a mortgage.
Okay. Was any part, I'm trying to help you out. Was any part of that like a major medical hospital stay? I mean, I know it probably was little thing. Okay.
No, most of it, okay, Chrystal, most of it was student loans, $230,000 of student loans. A big portion of it, 2 vehicles that when we think about it today, I mean, numbers have changed, but back then these were big numbers. We had an H3, it's like $35,000. I had a Jeep Liberty, it's worth like $15,000 or $16,000. Lots of credit cards. There's really no redeeming factor here. I'm just going to go ahead and put that out there. No one can feel sorry for me. They can just go, oh my gosh, how could you do that? And I'm okay with the judgment. I will accept it. There was a lot of mistakes made. So,
well. I think more than judgment first, I think wow comes first because, if we can get into it and get out of it, and if you can get in it and get out of it, then wow, okay, then there's hope for me. If all I've got is a couple of hundred or 100 or, 150 or whatever, I think it's more redeeming than anything else. I just was trying to understand. Okay, so were you your typical family that went and took a Dave Ramsey class and then went through the baby steps and just like everybody else?
No. So I would like to say yes to that, but it was actually a little bit serendipitous. So I remember the first time I ever heard Dave Ramsey, I was actually in the car. I was in college. I was with my brother, and I just heard this guy on the radio, and I thought, wow, that's entertaining. Well, I've never heard a show like this before. And it was a very quick kind of hit of, this is this guy on the radio talking about money, and people are calling in and they're just unloading. They're putting all their business on Front Street. I never heard this before. And that was that. I never thought of it again. I went years before I thought of it again. And it was after we'd gotten married. And it was after we had realized, holy smokes, student loan payments are starting to come in. This stuff is starting to add up. I'm sensing that we have quite the issue here. And then I remembered, I was like, hey, I said to my husband, Sam, I was like, hey, I remember this guy on the radio, Dave Ramsey. I think he can help us. And so that's kind of how it started. We went to Barnes & Noble. We bought his big book. It's called The Total Money Makeover. And back then they had a workbook edition. So I was like, let's get the workbook edition because we can fill in all the numbers and it'll feel like we're doing something. That's how it started. And I remember sitting in our 1-bedroom apartment. We had the workbook open and we're like filling in the numbers, and it was just getting like worse and worse and worse. And I was like, I just like closed the book. I was like, that's enough. Like, it was kind of like, we know it's bad. I can't hear anymore. If I hear any more, my heart is going to faint. And so I need to and that was the moment where we realized, okay, this is bad, but if we take it one step at a time, we can get this right over time.
Okay, so I want to stick a pin right there. I literally just this week had something that I knew was kind of bad, and it's not quite that, but it was something I just haven't been dealing with, right? And so I finally was like, let me go look at it. And that rising feeling of, oh my gosh, many people get stuck there. And it doesn't matter if we're talking about money. We could be talking about our health, because that's why people don't want to go to the doctor. They don't want to hear, what is it? And so how would you counsel somebody who is really physically feeling like the heart palpitations, the overwhelm, the dead weight on the chest, because it just seems like too much to absorb.
Well, I love that you likened it to physical health because I actually do that in the book, What No One Tells You About Money. I talk about just what you said. No one likes to go to the doctor. Like we think about, oh my gosh, the annual that part of the year where you have to get all of it. Like you get the mammogram, you go if you're past a certain age, you get the colonoscopy, you get the physical, the blood work, and all of that. It's so invasive. It is just, I mean, it's the worst experience. There's strangers in there. They're seeing you. They're seeing you in a very vulnerable state. You're having to trust a process that's like so uncomfortable. And yeah, the first instinct is to say, I'm just gonna skip it this year. I'm just gonna ignore it. But the truth is, we need that information. And to answer your question, something that I embraced very early in both on the medical side and on the money side, is this is an uncomfortable thing, but if I embrace it and if I do it, it's a way that I love myself and my family well. Full stop. Because not doing this, not being intentional, not knowing my numbers, if I'm really true to myself, like if I look in my heart of hearts, I go, man, that's actually quite irresponsible. It's not me loving my family well. It's not me loving my spouse well. I am not taking care of them by neglecting and overlooking this massive area of our life called our money and our finances. And so when I looked at it like that, I A, realized how important it is. And then B, is kind of a dumb moment, but it's worth being said. No one said everything had to be comfortable, you know? And so there's part of it that we just go, hey, this is gonna be, it's uncomfortable to go to the doctor. It's uncomfortable to put on paper gown. It's uncomfortable for me to reveal and look at my budget and have these conversations with my spouse about the spending. But just because it's uncomfortable doesn't mean it's unnecessary. And it doesn't mean that I can't do it jumping in, like being fully aware, hey, I'm going to do this. It's not going to be my favorite. And that's okay. And I think just saying that out loud, hey, you don't have to like it. It helps people go, okay, that's good. Now I know I'm not doing something wrong. Because a lot of times we go, well, if it doesn't feel right, maybe that means I'm not supposed to be doing it. No, this is just going to be uncomfortable.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I know you mentioned your book, and I'm so glad that you put pen to paper because somebody may not quite be ready for all the workbooks, but they're willing to read, just the journey, the specifics, the coaching, the connection, the support, what no one tells you about money, and the details, the things that they need to know to move life forward. So you're sitting there, you close the book, but here we are today, almost $500 million out of debt. How long did that take you?
So paying off the debt took 7.5 years to actually start and finish it. Now, there was about a year and a half before starting that I think we all go through of like, I think I'm going to do this. I think I'm going to commit, but I'm not really sure. I'm kind of going to halfway do it. But from the point of like, hey, this is real, we're doing it. It was a 7.5 year journey to pay it off, 460,000. And a lot of people listen to that and they go, that's crazy. That is a long time. But the thing they have to understand is when we started, I mean, we had just graduated. We were making $30,000 a year. That is a massive mountain with a very small kind of like chisel, chisel it out. So over the 7.5 years, yeah, you're getting your footing in your career path. You're finding ways to earn more money, not just side hustles, but really your core income having to grow and figuring out what's important in the budget, what's not important, having that battle with how people view you and do you even care, all of that in 7.5 years. But it was worth it. I would say it was completely where I wouldn't change it for the world.
Did we keep the cars?
No. So the Hummer was the first thing to go, which is so funny. And I'm just going to tell this quick backstory. So when I met my husband, he also drove a Jeep and it was almost paid off. And I remember him talking about, we weren't quite married yet. We were engaged at this point. And I remember him being like, oh, my car's almost paid off. First of all, I had never heard somebody talk about their cars almost paid off. I just did not grow up around that. Then I actually saw him make the final payment. And I just was like, oh my gosh, like you paid your car off. That is amazing. That started my brain of like, what would it be to not have a car payment? Then this is where the mistake was made. He was like, well, my car is paid off. It's got 100,000 miles on it. And his mom was like, well, you can't drive a car with 100,000 miles on it. You need a new car. So he got an H3 and started back over with payments again. And I remember saying, are you sure you want to do that? I mean, like I said, we weren't married yet, but I remember thinking, this seems like a bad idea to go from having no payments to having payments. But that's kind of, when you enter the world and you don't really have much financial literacy, they don't really teach this stuff in schools. Yeah, you do go based off of, well, Bob at work has a car payment. Why can't I? Or, it's just kind of a norm, and you're not really thinking about the long-term effect of it. And so when we finally realize, fast forward a couple of years and it's like, oh no, this $435 car payment has got to be the first thing to go. And of course, by then, you're upside down on it, meaning you owe more than it's worth. And it was cumbersome in our lives. So that was the first thing to go. And Chrystal, after that, we ended up being a one-car family. It was supposed to be temporary, but we ended up being a one-car family for the next decade. Like, got married and then had 2 kids and still had one car.
Okay, so 2026 is in full regalia, and you're like, I didn't do what I said I was going to do. I was supposed to be further along than I am right now. It's okay. You're not by yourself. The job that you and I have right now is staying awake. Like, don't stop paying attention to your life. So if you're trying to figure out if you're awake, or you want to know what to do if you're not, I need you to go right now to thesistercircle.com/awake. I got a quiz for you to take and some things to help you get back on track. Because the year is not over. We stood at the beginning of it. And you have time to do something with this year and do something with your life. thesistercircle.com/awake. Go take the quiz right now. How much of that 10 years was, we're doing this financially, and actually this is the way we operate and we kind of like it?
What I've learned over time, because I've thought about that, I actually think that humans are so adaptable. I think in good ways and bad ways, right? We can really get used to something that's very, very dysfunctional, or we can adapt and, accept what we need to for a certain season. Like, we're just so adaptable as people. So I just think that we got used to it and it became a norm for us. And because they're probably in the 5th year, we didn't need to be like that anymore.
Right.
And I remember we used to serve heavily at our church. And I remember my buddy would be like, hey, like, you guys still have one car? And like, after service, every once in a while, it would be we would be going in different directions. So I would just get an Uber home. And my friend was like, you're taking an Uber? Like, go get you a car. What is wrong with you?
You're a grown woman. You got a job. Get a car.
Exactly. And I was like, I'm like, I don't need one. I don't need it. I'm used to it. And then so finally we were like, all right, let's just save up. Because in my mind, I'm like, that, however, $12,000 or $15,000 we would save up cash for, I'm thinking there's another purpose for it. I like to have it in savings, or I'd like to, because my priorities had shifted so much. But yeah, that just goes to show it's amazing what you can get used to.
Listen, I currently have a 2012 Honda Odyssey. It has 220,000 miles on it. I have 5 children. Numbers 3 and 4 are 22 and 20. They are males. That car is a Honda. We're going to run that thing into the ground, because not only we don't need a car payment, but also if and when, statistically speaking, y'all have a fender bender or a bumper or whatever, I don't need that connected to a car I'm making payments on. So, that's right. And listen, my family, they kind of say to me what your friend was saying to you. They're like, Chrystal, get a car. Like, you have. And so my husband actually got me a car, and I'm grateful for it. I enjoy it. But I also, every month when I make those payments, I'm like, I can taste the days when I was not doing this.
That's right. You're like, what else could I be? It's opportunity cost. What else could I do with this money?
What else could I be doing? What else could I be doing? Okay, so apart from just, we know it was hard. We know decisions had to be made. We know that you had to, y'all had to be in agreement. What do you feel like the hardest thing was over those 7.5 years getting out of that debt? What was the hardest thing for you, where you may have paused for a second and said, I don't know if I can keep doing this? Was that even a thing?
100%. I was talking to a friend the other day, and with money, the conversation always skews in two directions. Generally, you skew on the numbers. Tell us practically, how much should I put in my retirement? And everybody wants to know numbers and numbers. Then the other thing is, then they get caught up with like the behaviors. Well, you should be budgeting, or you should be, whatever the thing is, you should put aside 3 to 6 months of expenses, like those behaviors that people want to see. But the hardest part really, really, really is the emotions that you face. And I'll get into some of the ones I faced, but just kind of setting this up, I don't think people spend a lot of time thinking about the fact that money really does touch every area of your life. Every single area, it's your career. It touches your career. It touches your relationship with your spouse. It touches your relationships with your siblings. It affects your spirituality, because there's generosity involved, all these things. And then there's the connections to our past, like whatever our experiences were. If you grew up in a house growing up where food was scarce, right? And maybe, you were on reduced lunch and the only time you ate was at school. That creates an imprint in you. If you saw a situation where your parents were maybe in an unbalanced relationship financially, and maybe one spouse lorded over money, or maybe there was a divorce and maybe mom or dad was left with nothing, right? All of those things impact the way we feel and the way we view money. And so when something comes up, maybe you listen to an expert, a money expert like me on a podcast, or you're doing some digging and you hear the advice that's in the first two branches, the emotion, the money, the numbers, I'm sorry, and the behavior. Something as simple as, hey, you should make a budget and you should consider cutting back on groceries. Something that simple cuts to the heart and goes, how could they tell me to do that? Don't they know I mean, that's just ridiculous that they would say that, right? That's you feeling all those emotions of the things I just talked about. And so when your spouse simply says to you, you know what, let's sit down, let's look at let's plan, because I just feel like we're kind of out of control with money. And they're just kind of being like lighthearted. And for you, it's like your heart starts racing. You're already mad. You're already feeling offended. All of these things, sometimes it's just kind of running and happening in the background, and we're not aware why that is. Or we don't even really stop to question it. It's just, hey, don't bother me. Like, don't tell me to do that. Don't even touch me about that. Right. And so for Sam and for me, the hardest part was dealing with that stuff, because he had a background with money. I had a background with money. He'd made mistakes with money. I'd made mistakes with money. So for instance, when it came time to deal with the student loans, I mean, you could probably tell this about me. I'm pretty direct. I just want to talk. I am not quiet. So I was asking him, the bills were coming in, and I'm like, hey, how much do you owe on these student loans? Like, how much? Tell me the main one. How much is it?
And please. This is after y'all were married.
Uh-huh.
So you didn't know this before y'all got married?
I knew he had student loans. And we knew we each had debt, but exact amounts, not really. No, not really.
Girl, I looked at my husband before he proposed to me, and we were just beginning to talk about combining things. To this day, he is offended. To this day, we married 25 years. To this day, he is offended that on a date at Luby's, I said to him, so how much money do you have in the bank? Do you have any debt? He was like, are you serious? I was like, we can't be merging money if I don't have all the information.
Listen, you were 100% right. That's what we all should be doing from the jump. And yes, I didn't do that. I didn't know.
I can't imagine figuring that out after being married. That's why I'm saying that. I just would be.
I mean, there were a couple behaviors that I clocked, and I'm sure that he did for me as well. Like, I remember being at the gas station one day, and he had like a little thing on his keychain that he just beep on the gas. And I said, what's that? He was like, oh, it's how I pay for my gas. I was like, oh, that's convenient. I was like, what is it? He was like, well, it's just a way that I can just quickly pay for it. But I'm like, yeah, but what is it?
Tied to a credit card. That's what it is.
It's tied to a credit card. And so I started clocking those little things like, oh, he uses debt for things that I don't use debt for. Like, I would have a store card to buy clothing, but I would not have a card to pay for gas. So I started noticing like just little things of how we do money differently, but it didn't stand out to me as a problem until the bills came in. Because up until that point, it's like if the bill came in, no one was hiding anything, but it was just like, okay, let's just pay it. Whoever sees it pays it, right? And then as the bigger bills come, that's what kind of unveiled it. And I just remember saying to him, like, how much student loan debt do you have? And he was like, I think it's like 120. Like, I think it's around 120. And I'm like, okay. Now, mind you, I had not logged in. I didn't feel the need to do anything like that yet. But as they were coming, I'm like, I think it's more than that. And then, it starts to come out, well, I my parent is signed on this loan. I'm signed on this loan. I haven't logged in a while, so let's log in. And basically what we realized is, these loans were more than we thought. And so we did what anybody else did. Let's defer them because we can't cover the payment. Let's defer them. You defer them. They continue to build up interest. And then the next time you check, they're $10,000 more. And the next time you check is $15,000 more. And so that's how we ended up with 230 plus my student loans, 34,000. And the conversation, I realized the trouble that we had with our communication was not, do you know the numbers? The problem was guilt and shame. I feel so ashamed about this. I feel so much guilt for him. I can say on his side, my mistake is now affecting you. And that's how I explain it in the book is once it starts to trickle into somebody else's life, it's like, now we're talking about real guilt. It's not just something I did. I'm hurting someone else, or
Yeah, you're
I feel
impacting.
that. You're impacting. And then, when you let that sit around, then the real problem, which is shame, which is I am the mistake. So no longer is he saying, man, these student loans, they're really messing us up. It's, man, I really messed us up. I'm really the problem here. I'm the one holding us back. And that person starts to wear that mistake as their identity. And so that was hard. That was very hard for us to overcome. I would say his guilt and shame and just my fears. I had a lot of fear about, will the sacrifices that we're doing, will they actually pan out? Will it be worth it?
And if we get all the way there, can we stay there? Like, do we have enough behavioral change so that we don't get back here again? I would think that that's a question I would ask.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a huge part of it. And what you're really asking yourself is, can I be successful? Can I keep a promise to myself? Can I sustain this? And that's a lot to grapple with too. A buddy was asking me the other day, hey, what's the best part about becoming debt free? What's the best part about, accomplishing these steps that you teach? And I said, it's not what people think it is. A lot of people think it's you have a pile of money in the bank and, you've got some financial freedom. And don't get me wrong, that's that's fabulous. That's great. But the best part is when you know beyond a shadow of a doubt that what you say you're going to do, you do it. You've become a
Yeah,
person
it's a
that
gift to
you
yourself.
keep promises to yourself, and your spouse keeps promises to you. And it's like, hey, I know I can depend on me, and I know I can depend on you. Like that, there's such freedom in that.
It is a lot of freedom. So I know that there are a lot of books about money. You mentioned Total Money Makeover book by Dave Ramsey, and there's a lot of people out here talking about money. We had our Susie Orman era, and Oprah brought her on, and then you've got different people out there. This resource that you've created, that you're gonna be putting out there, sharing with other people, like what makes this different? Is that it's looking at behavior? Because I know you were talking about that. Like, what is the takeaway and kind of the different angle or the unique angle that you bring to the sphere of money conversation?
Yeah. So in the Ramsey verse, we teach a plan for money. We teach a way to find financial peace with money. It's the same thing my husband Sam and I did. It's 7 baby steps, right? And if you want, I can go through them. But a lot of people, like I was saying before, a lot of people understand that part because the 7 baby steps is all numbers and it's all behavior. And it's like, yes, got it. But what I found was not just for me, but in this role, I talk to people all the time. And the number one problem is I'm just stuck. I know what I'm supposed to do, but I'm just having a hard time doing it. Or I'm having a hard time like actually seeing the progress. Or I make my budget, but I'm just like not able to stick to my budget. Or I want to combine money with my spouse, but my spouse is wilding out. They don't want to have the conversation. And I realize, oh, it's not just me. Everybody is running up against these emotional barriers when they're trying to do right. They're trying to do this plan. They're trying to do these behaviors. They're trying to get the numbers right. So that's that's why I came and wrote this book, because I do know that. I know that, if you're feeling fear with money, let's go back to the fear, right? So many people, they're like, Jade, I hear what you're saying. Makes sense up here. Like logically, I get it. I have a problem with this idea of pausing my retirement to save up cash money, right? Like whatever it is that I'm asking them to do. And so I'm trying to teach them in the book, okay, I felt like that. Here's what I did. Because so many fears about money are very, very vague, is what I realized. The vague fear is, oh my gosh, well, if I do that, I won't have any money for retirement. Well, that's pretty vague. Have you done the math? Well, no, I just feel like I won't. Okay. Well, Jade, you want me to get a side hustle, but if you do that, it's just going to make everything crazy midweek. That's very vague. What do you mean make everything crazy? So I encourage people, hey, I find that some of the irrational fears tend to be more vague, whereas some of the rational fears have there's a very clear picture. If someone says to me, Jade, the reason that I'm worried about getting a side hustle is because my daughter has softball every Saturday. And Saturday is really the only day that I could do softball. So I'm worried that if I do softball, if I do the side hustle, I'll miss her softball games, and my baby who needs childcare, will the money offset the childcare, right? That's very specific. I love a fear like that, because now we can get to the bottom of it and go, okay, well, now we are dealing in math and numbers. Let's run it out. Let's play it out. And then now we can come up with a solution that does work and not, do you know what I'm saying? And satisfy that fear there. So those are the types of solutions I want to give people, not save up 15% for retirement. It's more than that.
Yeah.
Like
let's negotiate the things that are the roadblocks that are in the way, that even though the instructions are simple, your application of that is not simple to you. Like you're trying to work through all of that. That's great. So just to jump forward here. So how did we end up on Dave Ramsey? How did that happen?
Oh, working on the team, you mean?
Yep.
So prior to this, I've always been in entertainment. That's my craft. And while I was doing entertainment, of course, we're doing this Dave Ramsey thing. And part of that is they still have it, but back in the day, it was a bigger deal. They'd have these classes. It's called Financial Peace University. And it was really a community thing. And a lot of churches would do it. It was kind of like a small group. You would meet up, you would watch these videos and learn this information. And the benefit was you were around like-minded people, a group of folks who, you could encourage them, they could encourage you. And of course, those classes needed a leader, they needed a coordinator. So my husband and I were like, hey, let's lead some of these FPU classes, because we can encourage other people while we encourage ourselves. So for 7.5 years, we were doing that. And so, we kind of got more and more entrenched in the stuff. And I mean, we were seeing benefits. So I just fell in love with the content. All while I'm working full-time in entertainment. I used to work on cruise lines, performing. And then my husband and I started a business that we have to this day. That's a talent agency in entertainment. And so that's kind of the backdrop. And then 2020
This explains why you're so fun to watch on Instagram, because you really are doing the most on Instagram in the most fun way. I'm like, where are we running today? What are we eating today? What is happening with our nails today?
I can't help it. I think, thank you though. That I try to make it fun. But I try to make it fun. So this next part's not fun. 2020, girl. And I mean, just in every way, shape, and form. But for us, it was kind of like, God, no, are you serious? Because we had done all this stuff. By then we had paid off the debt. Like we were out of the hard part into life. But now our business is shut down because our business was entirely live events and international live events. So it's like everything shut down. Now, I knew it would come back. Like there was never a part of me that's like, oh, we're done forever. It's never coming. I knew it was going to come back. But what happened was it created this space. We were all so busy, and it's just like we go from thing to thing to thing. And it created this space that I was like, I don't know what I want to do. Like, I got to do something in the interim. I don't know what it is. And I remember this moment of being like, God, I don't know what you want me to do. I'm good at two, and it just kind of happened. I was like, I'm good at two things. I'm good at entertaining and I'm good at managing money. And it was like, bling. And almost simultaneously, probably within the same 1 or 2 days, my husband comes downstairs. He's like, "Hey, I just got an email from Ramsey Solutions." Now, I don't know. I'm sure we were on some of their email lists for products or whatever, but he's like, "I got an email that said that they're hiring for personalities." Like, personality, what's that? He's like, that's like Dave, or, his daughter goes on there. And we're like, "Oh, huh, that's interesting." Now, mind you, I had always said I could never work for anybody. I could never work for anybody. And then it was a joke that I would say, I could never work for anybody. Well, maybe Dave Ramsey. I used to say that all the time as a joke. And now here it is sitting in my email box. So it was one of those moments where Sam and I just kind of looked at each other, and it was kind of like, man, I think that I think you might supposed to, reply to this thing. So I did. I replied, and then we had another. It was just a series of moments, Chrystal, that I felt like I was on a ride, and you couldn't stop the ride no matter what you did.
Wow.
From the
Yeah.
moment I hit send on that email, it was like, and Sam was like, "I feel like this is going to happen." Like, with no reason in the world to believe that, just
Yeah.
a feeling. And so it did. They called me back almost immediately. And then from there on, just candidly speaking, I called up my pastors almost immediately. I was like, "This thing just happened. Please just pray. Like, please pray with us. Make sure we're not like falling out, like just completely missing the boat on this." And because we've been with them, loved them for years. And if
Right.
anybody was going to say, "Hey, you need to like pump the brakes, like you're missing it major," it would have been them. And they didn't. They were like, "As much as we'd hate to lose you, you need to do this."
Yeah.
And so it ended up being a 2-year process of Zooms and going to visit and just getting to know folks. And
Yeah,
for
'cause
me,
he's a higher, slow
emotionally,
guy.
he is very slow. And I needed that though, because I had to process letting go of a life I'd always had. You know, I've always been work from home. I've always been, I do what I want when I want on my schedule. I've always been my own boss. It's a big part of that. I'd have to put my kids in daycare. I'd never done, all that. And I needed that time.
That's so fun. I love when things converge. You just didn't see them coming, but when they do, it makes sense. You look back and you're like, "Oh, this all makes sense." So I know that you have this book, and I'm really proud of you because everybody doesn't do this, even when they want to. So what no one tells you about money, the real key to getting unstuck from someone who's been there. So we kind of talked about the debt. We talked about the Dave Ramsey piece. We know that there are the 7 steps in the middle, but and if somebody has not heard of Dave Ramsey in the baby steps and the money makeover, they have been living under a rock. Go look it up. But apart from the
Right.
things that are the obvious things to do, if you had to, as someone listening to this, now that they've heard, man, $500,000 in debt, this is possible. 7 years sounds like a long time, but I have the whole rest of my life to enjoy if I do this right. And then I'm freeing myself up for God knows what. Like, eyes have not seen, ears have not heard. What does God actually want to do that I don't even see coming, that will totally make sense in reverse? Right there in the middle, if you were talking to the person who is aware of baby steps and also capable of going and doing the homework, finding a financial piece, whatever they need to do to get that part going. If you had to leave the one thought with the person who is just standing on the precipice of the emotional weight of the debt, knowing that there are steps, and also just wanting to know something specific from you about what you would say to them, but also maybe a step that you had to take in there, like without getting into all the details, like this was hard for me, but I did it, or thought this would never end, but I did it. You can too. Anything that you would say to that person who is not short on intel, just needs a little to get them over the edge.
I would tell them, and this is the mindset I had. I would tell them that the time's going to pass anyway. The time's going to pass because I think when we think of something that's a longer timeline, it's overwhelming, especially the way the world is now. More and more and more, it's instant gratification. I pull up my phone, I make my Amazon order, and sometimes it's on my doorstep that same day, right? And goals with money just aren't like that. They're just not. And so for me, it became the time is going to roll by anyway, whether it's a 2-year horizon, a 5-year horizon, for some of us, maybe a 10-year horizon, maybe you're saving for a down payment. And there really are 3 options, and sit with the 3 options. Like, I beg of you, don't let this just go past your brain. Really stop and think. The 3 options are, you could be the same. 5 years goes by. Imagine, it's 2026 now, so imagine it's 2031. You wake up and it's exactly the same. You're still kind of barely making it, living a little bit paycheck to paycheck, avoiding conversations with your spouse. It's really relatively the same. Other option is, it's worse. Things have gotten worse. You ended up losing your job and you didn't have enough money saved, so you started relying on credit cards. Credit card debt piled up. Before you know it, somebody got a diagnosis, they're not working, and you're considering filing bankruptcy. Happens every day. These are calls I get every day. So it's not me being fatalistic. Then there's the other option of, oh, I could be better. Like today, I literally could listen to what Chrystal and Jade are saying, and I could just take the next right step. And then the next day I can wake up in the morning and take the next right step. Because what this is a commitment. And you and I are both married. You've been married for a long time. I've been married for, 15, 16 years. And commitment is not something that happens all at once. It's something you choose every single day. Every day you wake up and go, I'm going to be committed to this. I'm going to be committed to this. And there's times where you don't want to be committed to it, but you choose it anyway. And so that's what I tell people. The time's going to pass. It's just going to pass. And it doesn't mean that you're going to be perfect, but if you can just make the commitment on a daily basis, that I'm going to just keep going forward. And some days going forward simply means I'm not giving up. I might not do a thing that like makes me move by a leap and bound, but I'm just holding the line, right? And that's something, and that should be celebrated, because it is a snail's pace sometimes. But each day you can wake up and you go, well, at the very least, I didn't borrow any more money today. I didn't put anything on the credit card, thank God, right? And that's a win. That's a win. And so that's what I tell people. Time's going to pass. Staying the same is not an option. Parable of the Tenants, read it sometime. It's not an option to stay the same. You have to grow the opportunity that you have and that you've been given. And for me, I tend to look at things through a spiritual lens. It's just the way I am. And so I'm also looking at, okay, what would God want me to do?
I want you all to listen. We do not need, I mean, we need information, but we live in an information rich society with access to all the things we need to know. If you have never heard of Dave Ramsey, go look him up, go do whatever he says do. But if after you get the information of what to do, you're like, I'm still tied up in my chest, I'm still trying to figure out how this affects me. Why am I reacting this way? I'm trying to deal with the shame and guilt, because those things can keep you from moving forward, even if you have all the information. Then I want you to remember my conversation today with Jade Warsaw. Remember that she's done it big. This wasn't $50,000, y'all. $460,000 in debt, done it big, and done it having to deal with the challenges in the behaviors, the mindset, the soul wounds of money, because money affects us in all different parts. And if you wonder, can you do it feeling the way you feel? The answer is yes. I want to encourage you to pick up Jade's book, What No One Tells You About Money, the real key to getting unstuck, from someone who's been there. She's been there, and she's reaching back to help you get out of wherever you are. Thank you so much for joining me. This conversation has been great.
Thank you so much. This was so fun. It was an honor. Thank you, Chrystal.
Such a great interview with Jade. It's so important, not just how you use money, but how you think about money and how you feel about money. But we still wanted to talk about money. So we've got some Inner Circle girls with some questions to pose to Jade. Here are the questions inquiring minds want to know. I am 55 years old. This is from Nancy, and received some money, over $150,000. Now she wants to know where to invest it. She's got it in a high yield right now. But in terms of her next best steps or the place where she can get the next right answers, what would you tell her?
I love that. Number one, I love that she's thinking about investing the money and not just spending it on something. So investing should be a couple of key things here. Number one, you should keep it very, very simple. Rule of thumb is don't invest in anything you don't understand. So that's the first thing. Don't do anything just because you heard me say it or you heard anybody say it for that matter. Make sure you do your research. Number two is you're looking for diversity. Okay. I'm never going to tell anybody to invest in single stocks, and I'm not going to tell them to invest in things like cryptocurrency, bullion, anything like that. I'm going to say, hey, let's get diversified. Let's do index funds or mutual funds, ETFs, that sort of thing. Because for those of you listening who are like, Jade, what is that? It really just is a basket. Think of it as a basket with a bunch of different companies on the inside, more than 100. And so instead of just giving my money to Apple, I'm giving my money to Apple and Tesla and Home Depot and Walmart and all these different ones. So there's a lot more security there if you can understand that. And so now that we understand that, you've got these funds. Now there's different funds that are in different areas. You could have some that are faster growing, that are more aggressive, like tech funds, or you could have some that have been around forever, like Walmart or Nabisco, right? And so I would say go across really the four major different types. You have growth and income funds, which are the giant. You might hear them called mega cap. Then you have some slightly smaller ones that are growth funds. A little bit smaller that you could call that a medium cap. And then you could have something like aggressive growth. Like I said before, that's the tech funds that they have a little bit more risk, but they have a nice reward to them. And then you've got the international funds so that if things aren't going well in the United States, you've got all this stuff that's international too, also called emerging markets. You could do that. And so, yeah, of the 150,000, equal amounts in each of those types of funds. You can choose the funds. I'm not going to tell you, choose VOO. I'm not going to tell you that. You do the research, but just know you're looking for those four types of funds. And you can go and look at the track record on that. And what I would be looking for is, how long has this fund been in existence? I'm going to look for something that's been here at least 20 years. And I want to see how has it performed over the last 20 years, because that's a pretty good indicator of what it will do in the future. So hopefully that helps you out.
That's very good. And when it comes to investment education, because first of all, great job. I used to work on the phones at Fidelity. So people would call in all the time. And when they want you to tell them what to do, like, I can't do that, but I can educate you and give you the information so that you can make the decisions. But it does feel like a lot. And even if you just go to one company, you choose a Fidelity or Schwab or whoever, in the one company, they have a million different, options. So there's so many things, and it can be so overwhelming. So we know where to go if we need to get our money in order, the baby steps. When it comes to learning about where to invest, how to invest, even considering what's best for me in my life season, the time that's going to go by before I need the money, where do you suggest people go to grow and to learn? Because the internet for investments can be a pretty scary place, especially right now.
Yeah, 100% can be pretty scary. If you like this podcast and you feel like you trust me, go to RamseySolutions.com. We have wonderful resources there to teach you. We have just a plethora of articles that make it very easy to understand. And you can read an article, turn around, read it again, read it again, read it again. Just know going in with investments, it's okay. The first time you hear it, it's like, I think I got it. And then you need to hear it again. You do need to have multiple encounters with the information for it to stick. I experienced that back in the day. So just be willing to hear something over and over and ask the right questions. Again, you can check out some of our articles. And you could even go ahead and find an investment pro. We offer them through Ramsey. We have a network of folks that we trust. But the point is, again, don't invest in anything you don't understand, and make sure this is a big one, make sure whoever you're working with, Dave would say has the heart of a teacher. I would say doesn't try to make you feel stupid, because I don't like someone who, if I'm asking you a question, don't make it feel like it's an imposition to answer my question, or like, well, and you're kind of like cutting me short to just get the answer out. No, I want somebody who's going to teach me and who's, oh, okay, here's what I mean by that, right? Somebody who's willing to spend a little bit of time with you. If they're not willing to spend time with you and listen to what you have to say and what your concerns are, cut them loose.
Love that. Love that very much. So you mentioned just a moment ago, you said, I'm not going to tell you about, Bitcoins and crypto, but that's all the things that the people want to know. They're like, I'm behind if I don't understand it. I'm losing opportunity if I'm not making $1 million over there. They're not thinking about the part where you lose $1 million. But in terms of the need with just the change in the world to approach that? Learn it? I mean, are you kind of like, don't touch it if you don't understand it? Or it's like, yes, but also learn to understand it because the world is going that way?
I can understand that. I think it's understanding the rightful place for it. So ETFs are not going away. Mutual funds are not going away. Index funds are not going away. So it's not necessarily a matter of one is taking the place of another. It's just kind of what's the popular thing of the moment.
Yeah.
And
It used to
so
be it used to be penny stocks. That was the thing. Watching
yeah,
penny stocks all
yes,
day.
yes. And so for me, it's like, okay, what's the rightful place? I think there's a place for crypto. I think there's a place for stocks. It's just not at the beginning of the race. So if you are doing, I have a checklist. It's the financially responsible adult checklist. So one of the things on the checklist is I'm investing 15% regularly of my gross income. That is just an action that I do. If you're doing that and you have money extra to what I call play, I'm fine if you want to, do some stocks, if you want to do some crypto, if you want to buy some gold. Just know that that's not the main thing. That's like it's like when you get a sandwich and then they put the pickle on the side. The pickle is kind of incidental. Like it's nice to have it, but
Yeah,
really you came for the sandwich. So just the mutual funds is the sandwich. The stocks are the pickle or, the ranch or whatever you want to call it.
that's good. That's good counsel. Last one. This is the retirement question. And the overarching question is, I'm catching up. And she says, where to focus? And then there's this list of things. Do I maximize my business deduction? Should I buy a home? Should I do term and life? Is long-term care? Is that a thing? Like, it's just the decision of, I know I should live on less of my income, but how much can I afford? I mean, so it's just do I make more money? Like, so if I'm catching up, gainfully employed, moving forward, I
Okay.
know her, she's actively working on getting out of debt. Next
Okay.
right step. So I've already
Next right step.
she's got some cash. So we're baby stepping it and all that, but I
Mhm.
got to catch up with retirement. Where do I start?
Yes. Next step, let's set a vision and let's get rid of the fears because I hear a lot of fear and uncertainty in this. So before we do anything financially, let me run some numbers to eliminate some fears. How old did you say she was?
55.
55. So my first move, and this might be like, oh, huh. My first move was I'd go on a retirement calculator today and I'd say, okay, what am I making right now? What's 15% of my income? And what will that look like if I invest that amount every single month for the next 10 years? What will that get me? Right. And I want to see real numbers. I'm like, okay, I see where that'll get me. Okay, what would happen if I added $500 to that? So now I'm going through and I'm saying, okay, what if I add more and more and more until I get to a point where I feel like that feels right? So that's my first thing. So that now I'm putting actual numbers around this. Second thing is now I'm going to go, okay, what does my cost of living need to be? Let's say I'm 65. The goal is if you have this nest egg, I should be able to live off the interest, right? I really don't want to pull off the actual nest egg. So if today I'm making $80,000, then, and this is just round numbers, if today I'm making $80,000, then it would be nice if I could continue to make $80,000 in retirement, right? So that's 10%. If I'm taking that and that's a 10% draw because a good mutual fund should make 10% in interest, that's an $800,000 nest egg, right? So that's kind of the way my brain is thinking of this. So what I'm trying to do is pull the craziness out of the air and put a real, okay,
Hard
here's what
numbers.
I need.
Yeah.
hmm Now we can start to think, okay, what do I do next? Next, let's finish paying off that debt. Because what you don't want to do is bring a whole bunch of debt into retirement because now you need more money to sustain that lifestyle. Now you got to pay for the $400,000, the $400 car note. You got the HELOC that you're still paying off. You got the credit card. You can't do that in retirement. That's too much. Pay off the debt now. Now, once and I would say with the full force of your income. Right now, the thing that you're going to be tempted to do is say, let me do both. Let me do a little bit of retirement over here, put a little bit of savings right here, and put a little bit on the debt. Think of it like this. If I have a pitcher of water and I have 3 different glasses that I need to fill up, what's going to take longer? Pour a little drop here, little drop here, a little drop here. Then go back and do it again. A little drop here, little drop. It's going to take you
Good.
forever to fill up any of those cups. Just take the pitcher and fill up the debt cup. Woo, all your income on the debt, knock it out. Now we can go, now I have way more money that I can invest. The time, if you go intensely, the time is going to be negligible on this. And you can do the math. If you go with intensity, that 1.5 to 2 years that it should take you, that's the average time, it's going to be negligible because in the future, you're going to be investing far more than you would have been. So that's what I would say. That's what I would tell you to do.
So good. Y'all, you can hear more from Jade. She's on the radio. She's on the YouTube. She's on all the places. I hope you enjoyed what you've heard today. And I know that there have been some solid nuggets that you can take forward and utilize. And here's the thing. When with all the information that you have, you start feeling kind of funny, know that those are emotions which are real, behaviors which are real, but those can be tackled too. And if you need more help, that's all about what Jade is talking about in her book, What No One Wants to Tell You About Money. Pick it up today. If that content was a blessing to you, listen, I don't want you to just get this once every now and again. I'd love to mentor you every Monday. You can join me in the inner circle at the club level to join me Mondays or to get the replay of the whole shebang that I do every week. I'd love to see you in the room, thesistercircle.com/inner circle. Join the club today.